A few days ago, Blizzard came out with a week in WoW dev blog post as an attempt of being more transparent with the community, giving us what was planned from the devs in this week of WoW. We got told that on March the 11th we would have the Hearthstone's 10th year anniversary, on March the 12th a new Time Walking, another PvP brawl, and the article about Dragonflight Season 4 dungeon changes, that today we are getting more hero talents from the War Within, and yesterday we were going to get the development update article. So, being used to previous development update articles, players were expecting something chunky, something beefy, going over the details, if not of 10.2.6, because they wanted to still keep it secret, maybe of Season 4. A couple of days ago we got the dungeon changes for Season 4, but nothing else. So maybe this one was going to be the article that was going to talk about the fated season. What's gonna be fated in the raids? What's gonna be fated in Mythic Plus? Are we getting some of those experimental features in a fated season like we got in Shadowlands? For example, the dinar system as deterministic loot rewards for your character, etc, etc. That was what expected from this development update. Now, this update, first of all, didn't come for a while. It was expected around 6 to 8 p.m. European time, around late morning in NA, and then hours went by and it wasn't coming, and then more hours went by. Eventually, it dropped at like 1 a.m. in Europe. This is not a recap, this is not a preview of the actual development update, this is all there is. It's a couple of lines telling you that the patch 10.2.6 is coming on March 19th and that the actual Season 4 will go live several weeks after this patch. So things like the feats of strength of the raid as well as ahead of the curve will still be available to be obtained until Season 4 launches. They won't go away when 10.2.6 launches. And this was all of the update. Now, obviously, players didn't take this update too happily. They were like, yeah, okay, but where's the rest? This is not even an update. This could have been solved by a tweet. We didn't even need an actual update for this thing right here. So players went on and on and on to, voice their displeasure at such a short and more or less empty update about the patch. Now, this has once again raised some questions related to the community perception of this patch right here, of 10.2.6. Because, as a reminder, 10.2.6 has been kept secret by the developers. They decided to essentially not reveal anything about the patch, or almost anything, because we did get to know still a few things about this patch. Anyways, this patch was not going to hit the PTR, was not going to be testable, is not data mineable, so we will not know anything until we log in on March 19th for the patch day. Now, this is, an experiment of Blizzard. Already, they have started doing this in Shadowlands. Around the fated season, they can bring in some extra new things to test the response from the player base. So now they are testing the response of how players will react on an unknown secret patch. Now, of course, there are a couple of ways players have been reacting to this. There is one side who is already preemptively expecting players being angry, because the logic is, there is a patch, I am getting excited for the patch, I start expecting many things from the patch, even though I have no reason to expect anything huge from a tiny mid-season patch, and then once the patch launches and it is actually very little, I will get mad, because I was expecting much more. And then you have the other side of the community saying, well, it's your fault. Nobody told you to start expecting much from this patch. Nobody told you to be pretending things you don't know about, because the patch is a secret, so this is just a problem created by yourself. I'm sure it will lead to some good data from the Blizzard devs on how the players are reacting to essentially not knowing what is coming in a patch, as opposed to being told ahead of time, being aware already of the content that comes out, as we usually are for every patch. Now, even though 10.2.6 has been kept a secret, we do know a handful of things. First of all, the newest thing we got to know was that in this announcement, as little and sad as it was, we got to learn a new thing. Because in this announcement, as they mentioned the patch coming on March 19th, they also say that the content update of 10.2.6 goes live with a bold new limited time event. That's the new discovery, that 10.2.6 will have a limited time event. Now, you can stretch the meaning of limited time event by quite a lot. Normally, if you hear limited time event, you think 1 day, 1 week, maybe 2 weeks. That's your idea of limited time event. However, even ahead of the curve is a limited time event. The time is the entire season, but it's still limited. Even something like Mythic Plus rating and Mythic Plus titles and PvP titles, those are also limited time events. So there are multiple ways to read this as, on exactly how short will this limited time be, but we do know it's a limited time event. The best case scenario, of course, is that it's gonna be between the release of the patch and the release of Season 4. So ideally, Season 4 is expected to come out late April to early May, so this would be essentially a 1.5 month long patch. So best case scenario, this limited time event will be about 1.5 months. Now, we also know something else about this patch, because in one of the earlier announcements about this patch, which was basically telling you we are keeping this a secret, one of the things that was mentioned in this announcement was that the unique event inspired by past musings from the community of 10.2.6, they did say that it is going to be open to anyone with a WoW subscription, whether it is Classic or Dragonflight. That's a big tell. It's a big tell because if it is open to Classic players, it means the event won't reward you with gear, with power from Dragonflight, won't reward you with cosmetic rewards or even things tied in general to Dragonflight. It will not take place in Dragonflight, whether it is a dungeon, a raid, or even just an open zone in the expansion. It won't be in the Dragonflight continent, because it has to be open also for non-retail players. So it is more likely going to take place in the current Azeroth realms, in the current Azeroth continents, and the rewards will be very likely exclusively transmogs or toys or pets or mounts or titles. Essentially cosmetic stuff. And also that will not take inspiration or models from current Dragonflight, because they will also be available in Classic as well. And then again, not that Classic can actually use transmog items to begin with. So that's the other thing we know about 10.2.6, the fact that it's not going to be actually taking place in Dragonflight. That's when the player base will then begin to split. There are going to be players still full on Hopium, pointing out that surely for something to be put in the roadmap, for something to have multiple announcements from the developers and have something unique, like not even being mentioned in patch notes or not even having a PTR cycle to keep it secret, certainly it's not gonna be something tiny and disappointing, right? Blizzard wouldn't shoot themselves in the foot with something like this. It's not gonna be like the retaking of Gilneas, which is like 2 quests and 20 minutes. It's not gonna be something like the Hearthstone Anniversary, which is like AFK farming for a mob every hour or so. Certainly, it's going to be something a little bit more substantial than that. That's one side of the argument. The other side is the completely disillusioned one. It's like, no, Blizzard is setting themselves up to fail completely. They're gonna be releasing this patch and it will have 0 content and we will all be disappointed and will then be complaining about Blizzard. Even though technically Blizzard did absolutely nothing to hype this patch up, and it's technically your fault for getting angry, for expecting anything from this content update. That is the current divide around this patch. Definitely, the divide wasn't helped by having such a disappointing content update come out, possibly the shortest content update in the history of content updates, we can say. But I guess at this point, even the room for speculation is getting small, because the patch now is basically 3 days away, 4 days away from being released. So what remains at this point, besides continuing to complain, obviously, is to just wait and actually see what this patch will bring in a few days. I will let you off with your own judgments about this patch, if you're even expecting anything to begin with, or you are completely disinterested in the release of this patch. You know, if it's something cool, if it's something that will take you a bit of time to do, cool, all the better. But even if it's something disappointing, you really don't care that much. Or maybe if you're really into it, if you really put all your chips on expecting something big coming and you're already ready to be disappointed once the patch launches. That's what we are leaving each other for today on this Friday, the beginning of the weekend. Thanks, of course, as usual, to all of the Patreon supporters for the contribution and the help to the growth of the channel, which can, of course, also be done completely for free, like liking and commenting down below, as well as subscribing to the channel itself. Now, with these pointless things out of the way, thank you guys again for watching. See you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, well, after making the video, you have to cut, edit, and do everything else about the video, so we have to use headphones for that.